Today we have Keith Lutz Cannon here, and he climbed the Machame 9-day route with us earlier in May of 2015. So Keith, glad to have you here, and I appreciate you coming on board and answering some questions for us.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Right. All right. That was the scary part. We were worried about that while climbing it by looking at the previous history. So when we got there, basically mentally prepared myself for being wet and cold and snow the whole time. But come to find out, we only received rain the very first day going through the rainforest, and then once we got to the first camp, we were above 10,000. We were above the cloud levels, and the rain had stopped. So that was just an amazing view, and was awesome for us. It did rain later that night, about 3 in the morning, but after that, we had blue skies and clear skies the whole trip.
That's really good to know. A lot of people are expecting rain and torrential downpours for half the days they're on during April and May. And May is actually considered more of a rainy season than April is. So you guys had very good weather.
Yeah, we really did, yeah. So.
Did you see anybody else? Were there how many other groups on the mountain?
I want to say there was probably about 5 different other groups that we ran into. There was one larger expeditionary group from Europe, and they would have majority of the climbers were females, roughly between, I would say, maybe 20 to 30. And there was about 15 to 20 of them. And then we had other small groups in between 3 and 4 or 5. So roughly there was us with 4, and I think 5 other groups that we kind of were going through the climb itself together with.
And you had a relatively small group. Your group climb had only 4 clients climbing. How big was your support staff? How many guides did you have, and how many porters did you have?
We had, so there was 4 total climbing, and with that we had 2 guides. And out of the 2 guys, the porters we had, I believe it was 21. So a total of, 26 of, or 25 of us basically.
So let's talk about the climb. Can you describe how the day-to-day was?
Sure. Well, so the first day, obviously, is going through the rainforest, and for me, that was probably the hardest climb because of the humidity and the warm temperatures. I've been living in Nairobi, Kenya for about 8 months prior to this climb, so I was used to the elevation, the cool temperature. So going in there was extremely hard for me. We started out, and it was roughly probably about 6 to 7 hours of a climb each day. Every day varied depending on where you were going for the route, but there were just amazing scenes to take in, and just the actual climb itself was amazing to be out there and to be by yourself and to see, Kilimanjaro snow covered and everything, and just the clouds. But it was just an amazing sight every day.
And how did the altitude affect you? Did you feel it every day?
I was fortunate enough to be already around 5,600 feet, being in Nairobi and training. So getting out there, you still had the shortness of breath coming in, and a little dizzy, but taking the medication was extremely helpful, and I do recommend it. Fortunately enough, I didn't get any effects of altitude sickness, where I didn't lose my appetite, or I think I had maybe 2 headaches the whole time while on the mountain. So I was fortunate in that aspect.
And the medication that you took, that was Diamox?
Yes, it was. Mm-hmm. The Diamox, I started taking it 3 days prior to the climb, to one capsule, and then on the climb day, 1 in the morning and then 1 in the evening with evening dinner.
Okay. And did you feel the side effects, such as like the tingly fingers and things like that?
I did. Yeah, yes. So the tingling fingers was a good sign, feeling that because you knew the meditation was working. So having that tingling sensation going through kind of gave you, I don't know, a false sense of, wellness, I guess, but knowing that the meditation was working.
How about the other people in your group? Were they affected by the altitude?
So we climbed with a father and two sons. His two sons were 21 years old of age, I believe, both of them, and the father was maybe in his 50s. I know the altitude affected Bob, where he was really taken back by the altitude, where his steps and his movements were a lot shorter than ours, and he actually utilized oxygen for the summit.
And speaking of oxygen, you rented the Altox oxygen also, right?
I did, and as I was going through my, I forget the day, I think it was the day prior to base camp, you do a acclimatization climb with the oxygen just to get a feel for it and everything. As we were going, I noticed that I really wasn't making a huge difference to me. So after we got back down, I noticed Bob was kind of hurting and not basically keeping up with us as we were doing that little 2-hour acclimatization climb. So we discussed it, and I offered the oxygen up for him for summit day, so that way he can actually summit the mountain and have a better chance instead of making it all that way and not going. So I ended up letting Bob utilize my oxygen that I had rented.
And do you think that really helped him? Do you think he would have made it up to the summit without the oxygen?
I don't think so. He had left about an hour prior to us on summit day, and we had passed him going up the summit, and we actually summited, and then we were on our way back, and we still passed him, and still had about another hour to the summit. So he even said that without the oxygen, he would have never made it to that point, and then he just knew he had an hour to go, and he just slowly went poly, just one step at a time to make it, because he knew, the light was at the end of the tunnel there for him.
Sure. The last time that I climbed up the mountain, I did the same route as you, the Machame 9-day route. We had the same situation where I actually used the oxygen, and on my way back down, we passed somebody else in our group that was on their way up still, and they used up a lot of oxygen to get to that point. So I actually, we switched our oxygen tanks. So she took mine, and then I took hers on the way down. And I didn't really need it going down, so I had plenty of oxygen left in the tank for her to use.
I think it, I do believe that it made a difference. I don't know what the percentage is, but I know every little bit counts, because at that time you're sitting 50% less oxygen than you are at sea level. So, anything will help.
Yes, definitely. And the thing about renting the personal oxygen is you just never know if you're going to be the one who needs it. A lot of our customers actually rent one for their group just in case, one person needs it. You never really know which person that will be.
Right, and I think that's a wise choice if anyone is going in a group. Even if you're going by yourself, I would highly recommend renting the oxygen, and because again, it's a once in a lifetime opportunity to go there and to make it that far and not summit just because of the fact that you didn't have the oxygen or you weren't willing to purchase it. You'll regret it for the rest of your life, I believe.
So speaking of other parts of the climb, people always ask me about the Bronco Wall. When you're staring at it, it looks like it's going straight up. What was your opinion of the Bronco Wall?
Well, the Bronco Wall, it's funny that you mentioned it. We were all questioning it. We were like, we got to go over that, and we were like, wait a minute, this is not supposed to be a technical climb, amongst ourselves. Like you said, when you're looking at it, you're like, holy crap, this is going to be pretty intense. And then all of a sudden your guides tell you to put your trekking poles away and secure them, because you're going to be basically, not really bouldering, but kind of a slight bouldering, to get through. So as long as you go slow and you follow the instructions given by the guide, everything will be fine. It wasn't necessarily challenging. It was more just paying attention to your foot placement, your hand placement, and everything, and just taking it easy and not rush because it's no race. It's just go at your pace where you feel comfortable, and not once did I or anyone in that group feel unsafe or knowing that hey, this doesn't look right. So we felt confident in our guides.
So what about the weather? How cold were the nights there?
The first night after we went through the rainforest, it was probably 70, maybe 60 degrees at the campsite. It was fairly comfortable. And then once the second camp we got there, you're more of the open area. So as I said, we were very fortunate with weather where we didn't have much cloud coverage, so it was actually cooler because the clouds weren't there to trap in the heat. So the second night we had frost on our tents. We got down in the 30s. And every night after that it was below freezing while we were at the camps. And then base camp going into, the summit was extremely cold. I would say probably -10 at least with the wind chill and everything.
Yeah, that's quite low. So did you get any snow or anything, or was it just a clear night?
We thought we were going to get some storms, probably 7 nights out of the 9 that were on the mountain, because around the same time, around 7, 8 o'clock at night, the clouds would roll in, and you were expecting some sort of precipitation to kick in. But there was actual more snow happening at the higher elevation near the summit. So we never did receive snow at our camps, but obviously climbing on the summit day, on the peak there was snow on top of Kilimanjaro.
Okay. And did you get a nice summit picture, a nice sunny, clear summit photo, or was it a cloudy, snowy one?
We did. We were, again, very fortunate as we were going up. You could see the skies turning from the dark to the blue, and then finally the sun coming out. And we got up there around 5:50, 6 in the morning, and just watching the sunrise was just an amazing sight. Hitting the glacier behind us, and having the two signs there to take photos and video and everything. We had a little celebration of a beer on top of the mountain as well. So it was a good day.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of people don't drink the beer at the top. They usually drink it when they get back down to the camp. but yeah, it was probably pretty cold to drink that beer up there.
It was, and it was well worth it. And we actually made some phone calls as well with the sat phone that we had. I called back to the States just to say, hey, I'm up here in top of the world in Africa to my wife, and then Dan as well called his girlfriend. So it was a good day to enjoy everything.
Yeah, that's great. Speaking of the phone calls, can you tell us which provider you guys had? Do you know which carrier you guys had? Did you get a SIM card when you've been there for 8 months, so you probably have a phone that works over there.
I did, yeah. I had my own phone right there from Kenya, so I was using Safaricom, and roaming charges were being charged, but the SIM cards you can pick up at any little local store on your way to the hotel or actually to the mountain, because you pass various ones, and as long as you check with your carrier or buy a phone when you get in the country, it's fairly inexpensive to do, and there is coverage, certain areas throughout the mountain, and you just talk to the guides and the porters, and they'll tell you exactly where, or I'm sure there's some other website that you can find information for that.
Yeah, many people do ask us if there's coverage on the mountain, and from what I remember, it's pretty sporadic, but you're right, the guides will know exactly where they can get coverage because they're on their phones
sometimes also while they're
R-
up there.
Right. Yeah, I remember specifically three spots. I think it was Camp 2, 4, and 2, 3, and 4. I think there were the some cell phone service areas in certain locations at the camp rest areas.
Are there any just stories that you would want to just share or anything?
I mean, I don't know if this is I don't know how this would pertain to it, but I had a medical condition which I thought maybe would hinder myself. 20 years ago, or 15 years ago, I had diagnosed with ulcerative colitis, which is a disease that affects the intestinal, large intestines. Um, Long story short, I had to have my whole large intestines removed in 2000, and had to wear a small bag for three months, and then reconnected me. So I had fought numerous medical boards to stay into the Marine Corps, and kind of prove myself and medically and physically to see if I can sustain. So, doing a climb like this was challenging, medically and physically for me. Due to the fact that, dehydration is a lot faster in my condition. So I was kind of nervous knowing that, there might be a chance where I can't make it. But there's always groups and individuals that, always kind of surprise you and go out, So, I think my biggest thing, or takeaway is, if you have, I don't know, some sort of disease or ailment, really think about it and dig deep and see what you can do, because, you'd be surprised what you can put your mind through to get to accomplish certain tasks. So.
Yeah, well, speaking of the food, I guess I should ask you, based on your ailment, what did you think of the food?
The food in general is excellent. So, waking up with either coffee or tea was a great way to start the morning. Having that cup of coffee delivered to your tent was great. And then, they brought the hot water for your washi, and that just kind of set the tone right there, because you felt clean, you felt refreshed. And then you walked into the food tent, and there it was, this, porridge, some sort of eggs, some sort of protein as well, right there for you, as much as you wanted, bread and everything, and then lunch was either a bag lunch that they gave to you on the trail, or some snacks, and then either a sandwich or soup, and it was very filling. And then dinner was excellent. As you're waiting for dinner, you again got your hot water for washi again, and you cleaned up, and you went back into the food tent, and there was your popcorn and your teas, and or hot water for cocoa or coffee. And it was just a nice time to reflect on that day, and just kind of go through and wondering what type of soup you were having and what type of meal you're having. But every time food was served, it was never a disappointment to any of us, and we ate it all. It was very good food.
If there was one thing that you can recommend for somebody thinking about going on the trip, what would it be?
Wow, one thing. I would recommend some sort of video camera or decent camera, just to capture your experiences on the mountain, because granted, mentally you can capture it all, but you want to be able to capture to share with friends and families and other people, to hopefully get them the desire to go and climb as well. So I just recommend either a GoPro or some sort of decent camera, because I still feel like I didn't take enough photos, and I was taking photos every second I had just to capture everything.
Yeah, sometimes it's so cold that you just don't even want to grab out your camera and take a picture.
And that is true, but you just gotta. And there was times there that you did it anyway, because you knew you didn't want to miss that photo or miss that opportunity to capture that the sun setting, or just the spectacular view of Kilimanjaro in the background, as you're getting closer and closer and just getting bigger and bigger. So many, awesome opportunities out there.
Did any of your guides make you take out your cameras and take a photo at the summit? Sometimes they have
We
to do
did.
that with the guides make you do that because a lot of people get to the top and they forget or they're just too tired. That
Yeah, Henry from African Walking Group was excellent. He said, okay, camera time. So we took out our cameras and we set them up, and we took a group photos and single photos and everything. So he was very on cue on that, making sure we were getting the photos at the summit, and just different areas that were very, memorial for that climb, basically. So, yeah, it was great that he was so on top of everything to make sure we got the photos.
is there anything that was that you wished that you had brought on the mountain? I'm assuming you packed sort of closely to what was on our gear list. So did you feel like there was anything missing?
As far as what you guys put out, that was spot on. I followed the gear list, and then I have a tendency, just being in the military, to pack extra. And, so I think the best thing that I had packed were like a body wipe, washcloth thing, disposable, that you utilized. Because, just feeling clean really makes a big difference when you're out there. I've gone, 40-some days in Afghanistan and Iraq without showering. So having that, feeling of being clean is a huge morale booster. So I would think some sort of, cleaning wipe or whatever, body washcloth or whatever to bring with you. I think everything on that list was excellent. I went through it, numerous times, making sure, okay, I got that, I got this, and I didn't feel I overpacked either by going off of your recommended list. So everything was great.
So Keith, is there anything else that you would tell somebody who's thinking about climbing Kilimanjaro?
The one thing I do say is to do it. Just do it. Don't postpone it. Go ahead and book it because, time is going to run out soon, and, every day you get older and older. So just if you have any inclination to do it, just set aside a time and go for it.
Well, Keith, thanks for getting on this call with us, and we really appreciate it, and we hope our listeners will get a lot out of this interview.
All right, and thank you so much, and I appreciate Peak Planet and African Walking Group out there for everything. Without you guys, we wouldn't be able to make the summit. So thank you.